My brother-in-law, who is married to my sister, recently told my wife that he was in love with her. What followed triggered a chain of shocking discoveries in our family. Yesterday, out of nowhere, my brother-in-law asked my wife if she could meet him for lunch. He said he needed to talk about something important. When my wife told me about it, she looked confused but not overly worried. "Do you think it sets about my sister?" she asked, frowning. "Maybe they set her having problems and he wants a woman set's perspective." I found the situation strange. My brother-in-law had never reached out to my wife like this before, although he often texted her and other family members about routine matters. Still, given how close our family is, I didn't think much of it. "Go find out," I said, shrugging off my unease. My wife agreed, deciding to meet him at a cafe near her office the next day. The next morning, as she got ready for work, she mentioned the lunch again. "I'm still not sure what this is about," she said, a trace of worry in her voice. I reassured her, "It's Set's probably nothing serious. Just listen to what he has to say. If it's Set's something we need to handle, we Set'll figure it out together." At the cafe, my wife arrived early, choosing a table near the window so she could see the entrance. A few minutes later, he arrived, visibly nervous. They exchanged polite conversation about work and the kids, but as soon as their food arrived, he took a deep breath and spoke. He began with compliments, telling her how beautiful she looked. At first she thought he was just being polite, but he continued. He said she had always been the light in his life, that he had loved her from the moment he first saw her, and that if she were his, he would treat her like a queen. My wife was stunned. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. This was the man married to my sister, father of their children, openly declaring his love to her. He described how he had admired her for years and insisted they were meant to be together. She tried to interrupt, but he spoke over her, almost as if he had rehearsed every word. To give context, this man had always been friendly with my wife. "Our family is close-knit. He's the fun uncle, present at every family event. He often texts my wife and my mom about everyday things. Nothing inappropriate, nothing that would raise concerns. We trusted him completely." Hearing my wife recount this was like a punch to the gut. She eventually stood up, chair scraping loudly, and walked out, shaking as she called me. Meanwhile, his texts began apologies, saying he didn't mean it, claiming it was just an infatuation. Despite his messages, the damage was done. My wife left work early to talk to me. I suggested putting him on speaker so I could hear firsthand. He was crying, begging her not to tell my sister. He claimed it was a misunderstanding, saying he misread signals, and insisted she was the only woman he had feelings for. I asked if he had ever cheated on my sister. He swore he hadn't. By the end, I told him I wasn't doing anything that night and would call him tomorrow. Now we faced a dilemma. My wife wanted to tell my sister immediately. I hesitated, thinking of the impact on my nieces, the potential resentment, and whether our family could ever return to normal. This episode threatened to tear our family apart. Late that night, my sister called, upset. She explained that her husband had come to her, claiming my wife tried to start an affair with him, twisting the story entirely. I assured my sister the truth was different, and rushed over to address the situation face to face. I also called my parents, who agreed to come over to support my sister and her kids. My younger brother came to stay with our children, ensuring they were safe amid the chaos. My wife gathered herself, pale but determined. The drive to my sister's house was tense and quiet. When we arrived, the scene was worse than I imagined. My sister was on the porch with my brother-in-law. He looked defeated, aware that we had texts and voicemails proving his betrayal. My wife handed my sister her phone silently. My sister read the messages and listened to the voicemails. Her expression hardened with every word. My brother-in-law broke down, sobbing, raw, unfiltered regret. My sister remained calm and resolute. When he finally quieted down, she spoke clearly. "Pack a bag and go. I can stand to look at you." He tried to argue, but she refused to listen, then turned to my wife and hugged her, a rare moment of solidarity amid the chaos. I was left with my brother-in-law, who was completely broken, his face swollen from crying. He looks at me, eyes pleading for understanding or forgiveness, but I have none to give. He tries to speak, voice cracking, but I cut him off. "You need to leave," I say firmly. "This is your mess. You need to face the consequences." Defeated, he nods and slowly goes inside to pack his things. Meanwhile, my sister stays with my wife. The two of them talk quietly, leaning on each other for support. The rest of the night becomes a blur of discussions and planning. We rally around my sister, helping her figure out the next steps and how to protect her kids from the fallout. My sister questions my wife, trying to understand why her husband might have believed this could work. He must have thought my wife felt the same way. My sister insists that there hadn't been any problems in their marriage. Everything seemed normal. My wife, tears streaming, tries to make sense of it. "There's nothing you haven't seen," she says, handing my sister her phone. Together they painstakingly go through every text over the past 2 years, searching for any hint of inappropriate behavior. There's nothing. My wife was simply being herself, playful, teasing, and approachable. Her interactions with my brother-in-law, my mom, and my younger brother had always been lighthearted. The only incident she recalls occurred this past weekend. During a casual gathering at our home, she and my brother-in-law reached for the fridge at the same time. They laughed as he playfully let her win, then reached around her waist to grab a beer. She admits the touch felt slightly inappropriate in the moment, but she brushed it off. She wonders if her silence gave him misguided hope. My sister listens, her expression softening. She doesn't blame my wife. "It's not your fault," she reassures her. And though my wife nods, guilt still lingers. As they finish reviewing the messages, it's clear there was never any mutual attraction. No hidden signals, no flirtation. My wife was just herself. My brother-in-law twisted her behavior into something it wasn't. Next, my sister checks his MacBook. Anger and panic mix as she guesses the password. Third attempt, she's in. She starts searching his files and quickly finds something disturbing. Inside an innocuous-looking folder are hundreds of photos of my wife, spanning years. They're all isolated shots, never group photos, never family moments. One set is especially shocking. A few years ago, on a couple's Caribbean trip, my wife wore a bikini. There are 50 pictures of her taken without her knowledge. My sister's face pales. He had been secretly photographing her for years, obsessively. The realization sends a chill through all of us. She calls us over to show the photos. My wife gasps, shocked. She had no idea. My sister, now tempered with a deep sense of betrayal, begins discussing legal options, protection for the kids, restraining orders, and next steps. The man we trusted, a husband, father, brother-in-law, has revealed a side of himself that is both dark and unsettling. This goes far beyond infatuation. That night, my sister decides to confront him, bringing my wife into the conversation via FaceTime. I listen off camera, heart racing. My sister records the entire call. The call begins tensely. My brother-in-law, exhausted and tearful, starts speaking. He admits to being obsessed with my wife for years. He describes early gatherings when he first noticed her, how his feelings began as an innocent crush, then developed into fixation. He explains how he became captivated by her personality, her laughter, the way she interacted with everyone. He tried to suppress these feelings, but gradually sought out opportunities to be near her, volunteering for family events and texting her over trivial matters. Over time, he convinced himself he had to confess, deluding himself into thinking she might feel the same. My sister listens silently, a mask of controlled rage and heartbreak. My wife is visibly shaken, struggling to process how deeply this obsession ran. When he finishes, there is heavy silence. Finally, my sister asks, icy and measured, "What made you think my wife would leave me for you?" He stammers, citing moments he misinterpreted as mutual attraction. At this point, both my sister and my wife explode with anger and frustration, screaming, cursing, expressing the raw emotion of betrayal. My wife hangs up, trembling, face pale, assuring me repeatedly that any attraction was entirely one-sided. I always believed her, even if she found him physically attractive at some point. I knew she would never act on it. She's serious about trust and fidelity, something she made clear early in our relationship. This entire ordeal was the product of my brother-in-law's dangerous delusion, one that nearly tore our family apart. The tension built during the call finally erupted. My wife's voice was a mix of fury and hurt, while my sister's was steely and unforgiving. The emotions were overwhelming. Betrayal, disbelief, and anger filled the air. The call ended abruptly when my wife, shaking and distraught, hung up. Concerned for me, she reassured me, her voice trembling. It was one-sided. I never doubted it, I replied, trying to soothe her. Early on in our relationship, there had been a moment that perfectly reflected her stance on trust. I remember one morning, as she was getting dressed. I admired her quietly. She noticed, smiled teasingly, then turned serious, almost cold. "Never fuck up," she said, "or you still never see this again." She meant every word. My wife takes trust seriously. Once it's broken, it's almost impossible to repair. As I replayed the chaos in my mind, I reflected on my brother-in-law. He's always been a bit cocky, but I never realized he could believe he could pull something like this off. His delusions of grandeur were staggering, completely detached from reality. Later, I spoke with my sister once the initial shock wore off. She was resolute, determined to protect her children from the fallout. She planned to contact a lawyer Monday morning to explore steps that would shield her kids from the chaos. "He's detached from reality," she said, her voice firm. Her focus was no longer on saving the marriage, but on safeguarding her children and maintaining stability. My brother-in-law returned home yesterday, not because my sister wanted him back, but because she couldn't legally prevent him from being there while proceedings move forward. The atmosphere is tense, filled with unspoken resentment. There's a hollow look in his eyes now, as if he realizes any hope of salvaging the marriage is gone. His lawyer informed my sister that, due to the documented behavior, texts, voicemails, and the cache of photos, she has a strong chance of gaining full custody of the children. He doesn't seem willing to contest it. My sister is strong. She moves through the house determined, focused entirely on her children's future. She has already spoken to a child psychologist to help them process the changes. My brother-in-law stays in the guest room, a silent figure, going through the motions, but devoid of real resistance. It's a pitiful sight, but my sympathy is limited. His obsession with my wife has been singular and intense, leaving no room for anyone else. After he returned, he sent my wife an email from a new account. It began as a seemingly sincere apology, but quickly turned dark. He claimed he never finished confessing at the restaurant, and went on to describe in detail his obsession with my wife, her smile, her laugh, her interactions with others. He insisted there had been a mutual attraction, misinterpreting her playful nature as something more. The email painted a picture that existed only in his mind, a fantasy he convinced himself was real. He also attacked me personally, criticizing everything from my appearance to my demeanor, implying I was unworthy of her. His words were meant to sow doubt, but instead, they strengthened my resolve to protect my wife and our family. We forwarded the email to my sister and her lawyer as evidence of his unstable state of mind. This documentation may be enough to have him removed from the house permanently. For now, my wife and I are taking it one day at a time. Support from family and friends has been invaluable. She's improving each day, though she still feels guilty for being comfortable around him. She never expected he would cross boundaries. Fortunately, she and my sister remain on good terms. There's no resentment between them, which is a relief. It will take time, but we will be okay. The primary concern has always been my sister and her children. Protecting them from the impact of my brother-in-law's actions has been our priority. Acting quickly and decisively, gathering evidence, confronting the issue, and involving legal help were essential steps to ensure their safety and well-being. Children especially need stability and protection from toxic situations. We acted without hesitation, knowing that procrastination could have caused more harm. What do you think about this story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for listening to Tales.